The hottest and most sensual production in all of horse racing, the Lone Speed Show.
Presented by betptc.com. But aren't you supposed to start with "and now"? Or have we just skipped over the "and now" part and we're going straight into the hottest and most sensual production? Maybe we should just redo our entire catchphrase, throw in the word erotic or something. What do you think
Oh,
about that?
I actually like it. I mean, you have to pay me extra to get the "and now" because I don't know if you've heard, but we're gaining popularity, so I command a higher salary. The "and now" costs a little extra, so.
Plus, if we're going with, if we're trying to sprinkle the word erotic in there, you've got to use a different voice. And you're a voiceover actor, so this should be very easy to you, but you got to throw something more like romance novel type
Oh,
intro.
okay. Okay, we can try that. Let's try that. Okay. The hottest and most erotic production in all of horse racing, the Lone Speed Show.
I love it. You nailed it again. And we'll just tinker with different ones of these. Brent, we've got a huge day on Saturday. It's
I am
Belmont
so
State.
excited.
They've got 8 grade 1 races and then a grade 2 sprinkled in there as well. It is wall to wall horse racing, gambling action. And I know you are very excited.
I am very excited. I have not been as juiced going through a card of horse racing that for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, you get once you get past the Breeders' Cup, the 2 days of Breeders' Cup. This is arguably better than day one, Friday of Breeders' Cup Day. You're looking at what might be the second biggest day on the racing calendar. And
Mhm.
you and I talked for a few minutes before we started recording here. We are on a lot of the same horses tomorrow.
Great minds think or stink alike, depending on how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Lone Speed group text, there have been a number of times, and people who followed me on Twitter at Justin Do know this, where a number of members of Team Lone Speed, Dylan Donnelly, Steve Simonovich, Steve DeCaspers, Craig Spencer, Rich Nilsson, you and myself, will come to the same conclusion about a horse independently. Well, somebody will text it out, and then the horse goes and wins at 8-1. So just because we're both on the same horse doesn't mean it's the kiss of death from the Lone Speed Show.
No, no. If anything, it's a better sign. It just means different eyes looking at the same thing, seeing the obvious, especially when those horses are longer plays. Of course, favorites, everybody gets on a favorite, but we tend to not fall to the favorites most of the time.
We're on some lower price horses here. Let's get right into the action, if we may, starting with Saturday, Belmont Park, race 3, the grade 1 Woody Stevens. And shocker, you and I landed on the same horse, and we both have interest in the same long shot. Why don't you take it from here?
Well, the way the race shakes out, I have Drain the Clock and Jackie's Warrior. I think they're both going to go to the front and make sure that the pace is lively. So, I think we both went looking for who is the clear presser, who will be in position. And I went to Dream Shake. I thought it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I did too. And I initially tried to beat both Dream Shake and Jackie's Warrior as coming out of the Pat Day Mile, because a number of horses have come out of the Pat Day Mile and it didn't run all that impressively. But the more I watched, the more I came away impressed by the efforts of both of them. What finally sold me on Dream Shake was, and as you know, I'm not always a buyer speed figure guy, but the horse in this field that has run the fastest sprint buyer is Dream Shake, and that was the 96 he earned in the career debut, going 6.5 furlongs. Then they tried the Derby Trail, and he didn't run badly, but he ran exactly like a horse that wants the sprint distance, which is what he's getting here, going 7 furlongs. I think the price will be right. I think 5-2 is about what we can expect on Dream Shake. And then you and I both had a little interest, in the same long shot.
Yes, and that is Two-Lane Tryst. I thought very lightly raced, had a giant workout, very recently, looked tremendous. And they paid $310,000 for him. There has to be something there, and this might be the race where he wakes up a little bit.
Yeah, it might be. He's only got 1 win from 3 career starts, but they didn't ship in here for fun. They shipped in here, I think, because they think this one belongs. Are you sharing the screen right now?
I am,
Or
just so they could have a look at Two-Lane Tryst, because a lot of people
yeah,
aren't familiar with the horse. So
yeah. So I think I think Two-Lane Tryst is interesting if you want to look for a bit of a price horse that can get underneath a little bit. So that's where we landed. Why don't we go on to the next race?
sounds good. Why don't you kick us off? Do you want me to share the screen or should we just talk
Why
about it
don't you
first?
unshare it, because then it's easier for me to see my screen if
Okay.
we go back to the prior view. That way I can see you better, which is
Yes.
extremely
Well, it's
important
all it's what's all about, right?
to me. One of the races that interests me less than the others is race 4, the grade 2 Brooklyn at a mile and a half on the dirt. And again, you and I landed on the same horse. And for me, it's Campaign number 3, 12 to 1 on the morning line for John Sadler. This one has not been running as well recently as he had earlier in his career, but he's spotted the field a lot of lengths early. And maybe Luis Saez keeps the horse just a little bit closer in the early stages.
Mhm.
And so when he unleashes that late kick, he doesn't have 22 lengths to make up or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So uh, I don't have a lot of conviction in this race, but I ultimately landed on Campaign, and I think you did as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I thought Campaign gets first time blinkers. That's a good angle for John Sadler. It seemed like it's finding his best. I threw out that last race. I don't know whether that was just lack of interest or didn't show up or bounced a little bit. And I think if we get back to the race that he ran, two back March 13th, I think he could shake things up. So
Yeah, I mean, he'll need some pace in here. And these mile-and-a-half races, they're just not my jam. You never know how the race is going to unfold. You never know if the horse that's going to go to the front has perhaps never gone to the front before in its career, and you don't know exactly what kind of pace to project. But anyway, I thought Campaign was interesting enough to land on it at 12 to 1. If we get 12 to 1, I think that's not a terrible pick. Let's move on to race 5, the Grade 1 Acorn.
okay.
And this is the 3-year-old filly race at a mile on a 1 turn mile on the dirt. And I think you and I are at least partially on the same horse, maybe for different reasons. But why don't you kick off here, the Acorn?
Okay, I thought there's a bunch of horses going to the front, and it seems like Day Out of the Office would be good in a good position. He obviously will be close to the front because he also likes to go to the
Brent,
front. But
Brent is a sexist pig
oh right, I
for
am.
once again misgendering a racehorse.
I do it all the
It,
time.
it
I do.
is absolutely, it is pathological with you at the sport. And we will label you appropriately. You are a sexist, Brent.
I am. I'm so sorry, Miss Day
Get
Out of
woke.
the Office.
Get woke.
All horses become he's for me once I start talking about him. It's so sexist. You're completely right.
Very reasonable. So let's talk more about Day Out of the Office.
Yes. So I like the fact that sorry, Dad of the Office, broke post 10 and actually showed the ability to press a little bit, to rate. I think they made the move a little too early, and got to the front and just mistimed the move. Also, I mean, breaking post 10, that obviously that's not going to be easy. If you throw out all of those races, we've got the race before in the BC Juvie, where obviously she couldn't lead them all the way around, but other than those two, that's the only nicks against her resume. So I thought she was pretty tough.
Yeah, I thought her 8 bells effort was fantastic, and it was her first start since the Breeders' Cup. So you can assume she needed the race, but it was a great effort. She opened up turning home, looked like a winner, and was run down by Obligatory, who I had and a number of us on Team LoneSpeed had that day. Obligatory in the 8 bells at 16 to 1. Obligatory is in here as well. Obligatory was able to close into that very fast pace, and I think some people might at least partially dismiss Obligatory in here because they think she sort of, you know, just benefited too much from the fast pace in the 8 bells, and they might draw a line through that performance a little bit. I like Day Out of the Office because I thought she ran so well. I also think Obligatory is very dangerous in here. We know that Search Results is going to get a ton of play, is the likely favorite, may even end up the odds-on favorite coming off of her big efforts in the Kentucky Oaks when she was second, beating a neck to Malathot. I think she's very live. The other one in here that's going to be part of the early pace is Miss Brazil, breaking from post 3. And we can't forget Travel Column either. I was against Travel Column in the Oaks. I'm against her in here. I don't think Miss Brazil is at the same class level. I think this comes down ultimately to a battle late between Day at the Office and Search Results. I landed on Day at the Office, and I think Obligatory has a chance to be part of the decision late.
Sounds
That's
good.
where I am. Did you have an opinion on the Jiper? Race 6, Grade 1, going in my glasses. Is that 6? I think that's 6. Yeah, it's 6
Yeah,
on the turn.
going 6. So just one turn. sprint. I thought the race was a little light in speed, so I went to Bound for Nowhere. I also thought I also like Fast Boat a little bit in here. How
You know,
about
it's
you?
I just broke my glasses
Oh,
live
that's trouble.
on the air, so now I get
Okay.
to hold them up like this when I have to actually look at past. But so I have an angle here. I have a long shot here that I really like a lot, and this is going to be one of my bigger plays of the day. And there's a bit of a class issue with this selection, but if you go back and watch the replay for number 3 completed passes last race at Pimlico, you will notice that he broke very slowly and not far out of the gate was 4 or 5 or so lengths off of the pace. He then tried to get back up closer to the front, which is where he prefers to be. And he made that move where he gained like 3 lengths or so as they were entering the far turn. He did that into the fastest part of the race. And anytime a horse does that, I think you can forgive the effort because it
Hmm.
really takes a lot out of the horse. And he didn't pack it in. He kept on coming and eventually wasn't able to catch the first and second place finishers. The second place finisher, by the way, fits at this level, Critical Way, who ran big in a race at Keeneland against Top Company. So this field at Pimlico that completed pass was facing, no slouches. You can definitely forgive the effort if you need to forgive it in the first place because it was a strong effort in its own right. I think completed pass is going to be up a little closer this time and is going to give the front runners fits very late. You landed. Why don't you talk a little bit about your selections and why you landed there? I mean, you said Bound for Nowhere, but what are your thoughts on how the race unfolds?
Let me get back to that one sec. Bound for yeah. So I went looking and I thought when I looked at Bound for Nowhere's line, I thought the close 12 for 12. I mean 12 out of breaking 12 out of 12, and to close like that coming off a layoff, I thought that was very impressive. And then to know that normally the horses wants to be up front, I thought maybe we Rosario will see that, there's not a lot of pace in here and send him right out of the gate. Obviously, he'll have an easier track to the front in this race than did the last time out. So I thought that this made a lot of sense. I got to see what kind of odds I get. I don't know if it'll be. I don't obviously don't want to take him if he's going to be chalk. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, see, the past performances that I sent you for this, you're not you don't have the morning light odds. That's
No,
a production error on my part. Yeah, Bound for Nowhere will be the heavy favorite.
yeah,
I don't think we're going to get odds on or anything, but he did not break well in the Keeneland race. Won anyway. He's the deserving favorite. I just think people are going to ignore number 3 completed pass,
no,
and
I and I
I
did. I will say I did look at completed pass. I think that's the trainer's only horse that he brought for this particular. And I looked a lot, but I thought I kind of went to the class part. I was like, everyone else is, if we're running against graded winners, I don't know. But as you said, with all that trouble, and obviously when you're talking at Pimlico, they don't have a lot of graded stakes that are gonna. So he's probably racing against the best of the best there.
Yeah, I mean he's a Mid-Atlantic horse, and I just want to pull something up here real quick. You don't need to share a screen or anything, but the Critical Way, the horse that ran second in the Pimlico race, before then had finished a decent third of 12 in the Shakertown, the race won by Bound for Nowhere. So if you extrapolate that
Mm-hmm.
the Critical Way is a graded stakes quality turf sprinter, then you can make the case that in the case of completed pass, you've got a horse that belongs at this level. So it's a risk, and that's why we're getting 12 to 1. So that's my pick. Let's move on, if we can, to race number 7, the Ogden Phipps, grade 1 at 1.16 miles on the dirt for fillies and mares 4 years old and up. And the unfortunate news that came out this morning is that we have 2 key scratches in here, which
And one of
makes
them
the
was a
race.
horse that I was on, so that was unfortunate.
Yeah, me too. Swiss Skydiver and Valiance both out. I have limited, if any, interest in this race. I decided to just go ahead and give a chance to Bonnie South. I think for multi-race wagers that include the Ogden Phipps, I don't know that I'm quite prepared to use the all button, but it certainly doesn't cost that much with only 5 horses in the race.
Mm-hmm.
My strategy is going to try to find a way to get Bonnie South in there. The other Brad Cox. Brad Cox trains the obvious favorite now. She Dares the Devil, who I think is probably going to have things Well, she probably won't have things her own way on the front. I don't think anybody's going to let Florent Giroux get away with an early uncontested lead, but we know that She Dares the Devil will be up and on the pace. Maybe they go fast enough to set things up for Bonnie South, who is the other Brad Cox. What do you say?
I after we lost Swiss Skydiver, I also lost a lot of interest on it. I think that She Dares the Devil will lock up with Latruska on the front end. I think that'll they'll keep each other honest. I sort of thought that. I mean, granted, I don't know if we are good enough here, but I like kind of like Queen Nikia. If the race sets up and there's a lot of speed, I thought that coming February 20th, we ran a big race. And then I sort of attributed the April 10th race to a little bounced off that. And also looks like she had some trouble early toss the head and that kind of thing. So I thought if we can
Yeah.
straighten out and get back to that February 20th race, then maybe we can shake things up here.
I don't think that's a bad opinion.
Mm.
Honestly, in fact, in the morning, once we see what the track condition is going to be like, I may take another look at this race, and I may end up on the 4 as well. I think that's an interesting point that you made. Let's move on to race number 8, the Just a Game at a mile on the turf, and some weather in the area in Elmont, New York, as we record this. I think I don't know that people seriously think that these races are. Well, I guess they wouldn't take them off the turf. It's a huge day of racing, but we could see a quirky grass surface at Belmont
Hmm.
on Saturday. So it probably makes sense to reevaluate your turf selections once you know what kind of turf course we're dealing with. Having said that, I can't imagine that I jump off my top selection in here, the number 8 Althika. And my logic there is this, and I didn't get too complicated. It seems, I think anyone who follows the sport would agree that for the last several years, grade 2, grade 3 type Europeans have come over to America and won our biggest turf races. Maybe not all of them, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot. And there are some good American turf fillies in here. There really
Hmm.
are. But I just think we're likely to see this Godolphin. There are 2 Godolphin,
Yeah,
Charlie,
what made you go to Althika instead of Summer Romance?
because I think Althika is more appropriate at this distance, the mile distance. I think that will suit her a little bit better.
Hmm.
She lost at Maidan to Summer Romance last time out. That was in February. And I watched that replay. And I just thought, even though Althika lost that day, I can't help but wonder that if in a mile race with a little bit more pace than you would see in a mile and an eighth race, if we're going to see Althika's closing kick be a little more effective. She gets Mike Smith, which I'm not a huge Mike Smith fan, but that's where I'm landing. I'm not going to play against Althika. Even if there was an American in here that I thought was clearly the best of the bunch, and I'm not sure that I feel that way. I landed on Althika. Where are you in here?
I thought looked at my notes. We talked about this earlier. I actually like New York Girl a little bit. I think that I kind of dig when a horse makes a big run against a like clearly blowout last time out. Uh, had totally the way of it and was on the lead. And I like that New York Girl closed into that. And I also think that this race is going to go to someone that can close. So that's where I went.
Yeah, and she's got really good. Well, I want to say she got really good. She's got European form as well. She's
Exactly.
a grade 3 winner, Group 3 winner over 7 furlongs in Europe, and has tried Grade 1 company without success, but didn't run bad in the Irish 1,000 guineas. Yeah, she's logical.
There's a little bit of a hanger quality there, but
Yeah.
we in 2 years we've won one race, so that's a problem. I also like Summer Romance. That's why I asked about that. So
Yeah, and Summer Romance would be no surprise. I just think
right.
Althika is more appropriate for the distance. That's
Hmm.
kind of where I landed here. And if you go back through Althika's form at a mile, she won the Group 2 Cape Verde. She finished second in the Group 3 Prix de some French word that I'm not going to try to pronounce. She's got 2 wins at 7 furlongs on the grass in Europe. So that's where I landed.
Do
Let's
you
move
think,
on.
real quick though, before we move on, do you think that who goes with blowout on the front? Do you think he'll have any? I did it again. She'll have any company?
Brent Vernon
I know.
is a sexist. Uh, you know, No, I don't know. These New York turf races, that they've been throwing me off a lot lately. It seems like every once in a while you get a horse that you don't expect to be up close because it looks like there's no pace in the race and nobody chases in the horse wires. I've seen horses just within the last couple of weeks, maybe the last month. They've never been on the lead in any of their previous turf races, and here they are on the lead and they wire the field. So no, my answer to your question is I don't have any strong opinion about how this. I mean, Blowout looks like on
Yeah,
paper
yeah,
like
we'll be on the front.
yeah, I mean, but beyond that, I don't know who presses her exactly. It's hard to imagine that she doesn't go to the front, given
Mhm.
her,
Right,
her propensity to doing that nearly every other time she's raced. So yeah, I guess Blowout. No clever
mhm,
opinion here for me.
right.
What's next? We're on race 9,
Metropolitan.
a Met Mile, baby. Um,
Yes.
this is gonna be a fun one here. It really is. So I'm gonna start off, if I may, talking about the horse that I almost landed on in here and eventually jumped off, and that may end up costing me. Oftentimes, when I apply logic the way that I'm about to, it does end up costing me. Number 5, by my standards, is not my pick in here, but he was going to be. And the reason I jumped off of him is because I just have this opinion. Although he's a good horse, he's a graded stakes winner, you would love to own a horse like by my standards. He feels to me like one of those Midwestern US graded stakes horses that racks up wins, even racks up graded stakes wins. But when the going gets tough
Right.
and he faces horses from other parts of the country,
Yeah,
he
northeast
just
to
doesn't
west.
it just doesn't measure up. I mean, like Tom's D'Etat, for instance, who was, I'm pretty sure Tom's D'Etat was a grade 1 winner, but by my standards, he can go on beating horses like Owendale, okay, and Rushy and Wells Bayou, and other Midwestern type horses. But this is the Met Mile, okay. It is the stallion making race,
Mhm.
and I just don't think he is up to the competition. I don't think he's at the same level as a number of others he's going to face in here. And therefore, I went a different direction. And that different direction was Mischievous Alex, who in our meeting you also misgendered as a female
That's what
because
every horse is a boy to me. That's what I just what
well,
I
your
do.
sexism goes because you called Mischievous Alex a female. Your sexism works
I
both
can
ways.
work both ways.
The name is Alex. The name is Alex, which
Well,
often is
it's the
associated.
ambiguous name, I
Right. Exactly. You need to go through some kind of sensitivity training. But I landed on Mischievous Alex in here. And the reason I did is I just think that this race is going to shape up for one of those 7 furlong type horses that will have no trouble getting the added ground. Nick's Go, who will certainly be the favorite, ever since he started this, this reawakening of sorts, where he was transferred to Brad Cox, he's never gone one turn. All of his races have been around 2 turns. And do we know that that's going to necessarily mean he's going to be compromised? Of course not. He's on paper the most talented horse and the most accomplished horse in the race. I just think that what we're going to see happen is Mischievous Alex sit right behind him and prove very, very difficult to stop. I think he runs down Nick's Go late, and I think Mischievous Alex wins. And I'm going to go a step further at the risk of sounding even more foolish than I often do on this show. I don't think it's impossible. Mischievous Alex could end up horse of the year in
You
2021.
you heard
And
it here first, folks.
hear me out. Okay. He wins here. He wins that big 7 furlong race at Saratoga. And then he wins the Cigar Mile, the grade 1 in the fall. And I guess I left out the Breeders' Cup, whether that be the sprint or the dirt mile. I don't know. Maybe he skips the Breeders' Cup altogether. I don't know. But the point is, I think if you could get odds right now on Mischievous Alex being a horse of the year, I would take that bet. And I think that campaign gets serious with the win here in the Met Mile. Brent Schreff, what say you about the Met Mile?
I was with you. I think Nick's Go will go to the front, and I sort of agreed. Despite completely insulting the horse's gender, I actually agree with you that Mischievous Alex will run her down, run him down in the stretch. I can't get it right. Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, so we're on the same page there,
Yep.
Mischievous Alex. I now, do we get 5-2? I have no idea,
Yeah, it's not
but
gonna be much, but
no.
it's good enough though to be a good single in your pick threes, pick fours, pick fives.
Yeah, let's move on to race 10, the grade 1 Manhattan. And why don't you, the sexist Brent Schraff, go ahead and lead us off with your analysis of this grade 1 at a mile and a quarter on the turf.
Okay, I will do that this time, hopefully, more adeptly too. Okay, so I think we both ended up on the same horse here. Um, we both settled on Guffaw. Am I correct in saying that? I think we talked about that before, completely
Yes,
independently. Yeah.
we are on the
So
same horse.
yeah, came off the layoff May 8th, ran a very good second to Channel Cat. In my opinion, I think the pace will set up better here. I think he'll be sharper, one after getting one under the belt, and I think it's easy breezy. I am concerned about Channel Cat going wire to wire, but I think that as you said, these things tend to just work themselves out. So
Can you still can you share your screen on Guffaw?
I
Is that
can I can do that.
possible? Is that a click away?
That
Hopefully, I
is
probably
one
should have
click. Yep,
told
it
you
is.
that I was doing that. So here's my take on Guffaw, and here's why I ended up on Guffaw. I yesterday, Thursday, Joel Rosario had what I think was a very poor ride on another Clement trainee named Plum Ali, who I believe should have won the Wonder again. Plum Ali was just simply too far back through what were slowish fractions. I think there's some discrepancy as to what the fractions actually were, maybe a timing error there at Belmont yesterday. Nevertheless, Rosario was just too late to the party with Plum Ali yesterday to win that race. In the Man of War, the last start for Guffaw, the same thing happened. Channel Cat went out there. Now, it wasn't a slow pace at all, but Guffaw was left with simply too much to do under Rosario. I have to believe that given what happened last time with Guffaw and what happened yesterday with Plum Ali, that Rosario is not going to allow himself to come up short and lose another photo, especially with Guffaw. Guffaw, if you forget about the career debut, has only lost 3 races, 4 career, but 3 since the maiden win. They were all photo finish losses, 2 of them to domestic spending. I think the tables are turned on Saturday. I think Guffaw gets a win at around 9-2, 5-1. I am leaning heavily on Guffaw.
You heard it
The
here
end.
first, folks.
The end.
And that brings us to the big one.
The main event.
I'll
It's
keep sharing for a second just till we talk about these, then I'll unshare.
okay. Let's let me just go through some thoughts here. I think everyone agrees that Essential Quality is the most likely winner of the Belmont. I shouldn't say everybody agrees. That's false. Everyone doesn't agree. But I think the general consensus, the majority opinion, is that Essential Quality is the deserving favorite. And I think Essential Quality is the most likely winner. And gun to my head, I would pick Essential Quality. I think Ron Bauer, who's on the improve, ran his race in the Preakness. He's no slouch. I think Hot Rod Charlie, also no slouch. And any of them could easily win. Scroll down a little further if we may.
Yep.
Then we get to Known Agenda and Rock Your World. Rock Your World was taken out of contention at the start of the Kentucky Derby, and would certainly not surprise here. I think he's going to be up closer, and I think he's got a big shot. Known Agenda, you can never discount anything from Todd Pletcher.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to think that those Gulfstream preps, the Florida Derby specifically, I just don't think those races were that great. And I don't think he had that much trouble in the Kentucky. I'm against Known Agenda. It's not going to shock me if he wins. What I'm going to do in here is I'm going to use Essential Quality as my prime base for wagers.
Mm-hmm.
But there are 2 long shots, one of whom that I'm already committed to, that are going to be a big part of my bets. And I'm going to get laughed at for one or both of these. France Go de Ina was my pick in the Preakness. And he was so keyed up before the race and so keyed up in the early part of the race that he ran his race before they even finished the first half mile of the Preakness. If I liked him in the Preakness, because I think he's got the ability to be up close. It's possible that Francisco de Ina could find himself on the lead in here, and at a mile and a half on the dirt in American racing, any horse that is up on the lead early is dangerous. You never know what's going to happen late. You never know which horse is just not going to be able to kick it into gear late. Francisco de Ina could, I don't want to say very easily, but it's not impossible. It's not hard to envision a scenario where Francisco de Ina goes to the front and just doesn't stop running. The other horse I'm mildly interested in is Overtook, another Pletcher in here. And I watched the Peter Pan, and I'm not going to say that I came away from that race thinking that this horse was going to take the Belmont. But I think the fact this horse shows up in here, it has to tell you that Pletcher thinks the horse belongs. And at a mile and a half, quirky things could happen. I could see this horse just sucking up late and passing horses that have already stopped and winning. He's by Curlin out of an AP Indy mare. Distance will not be a problem. My strategy is to center around Essential Quality and sprinkle in some Francisco de Ina and Overtook. And that leads us to you, Brent. Where did you land, my friend?
Well, I mean, if I'm, doing pick threes, pick fours, I'm very similar to you. I'm spread pretty wide on just all the horses that have a very realistic chance. Obviously, Rombauer, I thought Rombauer kind of had the Preakness set up for him. I mean, he rated off the pace and let the lead fall apart and then passed. So I'm not incredibly fond of Rombauer here. I think Essential Quality is going to be tough. Hot Rod Charlie's going to be tough. I'm also definitely going to put Rock Your World in my play, and I actually leaning a little more that way just because I think that we'll get a little bit better value on Rock Your World. Maybe he'll be forgotten because he threw in such a clunker in the Derby, but just had a ton of trouble. So I think I'll probably be on a Rock Your World with those other horses I mentioned, but I'll use them all in my pick four, pick five, pick six.
Okay, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't really think of the Belmont as
I'm going to
that.
unshare real quick.
Okay, good idea. I don't think the Belmont is not the most exciting race on the card to me.
No.
It's the one that's going to get the most attention. It's the one that's going to excite the most people. But the reality is we've got an amazing day of wagering. We've got opportunities from start to finish. You've got multi-race bets, pick threes, pick fours, pick fives. You've got multi-day wagers. We didn't talk about any of the Friday racing because, frankly, I haven't spent that much time handicapping Friday because I've been kind of focused on the Saturday card. But
tough to look away from Saturday's card. It's fun.
Non-stop action, Brent. Non-stop action.
Just like this show, non-stop action.
Just like in sexism.
Yes.
Rampant
equine sexism on my part.
We both need to work on that before the woke police come knocking on the LoneSpeed studio. Brent, that's it for us. How's everything going? How's everything going in life? Things good?
Things are solid. Things are solid. I'm ready to get done with the school year and get into summertime fun.
The big news here,
including NHC stuff, including maybe a trip to Saratoga
or Del Mar. Dylan Donnelly's trying to rally the troops to get all of us out to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup. I've heard worse ideas in my life.
Nothing better than horses meeting ocean. So
no, not at all. The big news here in Central Florida is that it's raining today.
Surprise there.
My grass is completely dead, gasping for water, and it got a little bit of a drink today. Final point, you may notice, Brent, over my left shoulder here, I figured out that if I put my horse racing blanket over the window, it helps with the lighting here in the LoneSpeed.
You've never looked better. You've never.
You like it? You like it better this way?
I do.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even know. It looks like a decorative in the picture. It just looks like a portrait or something.
Yeah. It's got horses. It's got race horses on.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
I will give you $10,000 cash if you can guess what racetrack I purchased that from. It was for sale in a racetrack gift shop. Do you want to guess? You get one guess.
I get one guess. I'm just going to go with just logic and say Tampa?
No, Charlestown.
That is so funny you say that. I was actually planning, I'm going on a camping trip with my family, and I have an 11-year-old, and I was planning to take him on Sunday to see live racing at Charlestown, and then found out it's only Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was very disappointing. So now we're going to do something else. Probably an amusement park. but
Yeah,
it was
it's a fun place. I used to live in Northern Virginia, so the local track. We wanted the closest thoroughbred action was Charlestown.
yeah, now they got the casinos there. It looks like a ton of fun. I've never been. And I thought I'd take my
Um,
11-year-old and introduce him to horse racing. Now we're going to end up probably at some theme park instead.
it's shocking to me your 11-year-old has not already been introduced to horse racing. What is going on? In
Well, I
addition,
mean,
in addition to being a sexist, are you also a neglectful father?
I think I might be. Well, we grew up, we raised them in California. I have 3 kids, and the other 2 spent probably a Sunday a month at Santa Anita, and then we moved to North Carolina where racing is not as easy to get to. So that's why my 11-year-old has not been introduced yet. He's probably
Yeah.
been to Santa Anita, but it was in a stroller, so he doesn't remember.
Final thought, I need a new pair of glasses. I blame Brent Schraff for the fact that my glasses broke on the air. Don't forget to go to lonespeed.com, click on the link at the top of the screen that takes you to betptc.com, sign up, amazing rebates. We'll talk more about a rebate play next week. Brent Schraff, thank you for the new introduction. Thanks for working the word erotic into the new introduction in the new voice, which was
Always
sultry,
sultry.
sultry to say the least. I need you to work on your rampant, abject sexism in your
Only
misgenre.
equine sexism, but yes.
It disgusts me.
Okay.
We'll work on that for the next show.
I'll go to therapy.
But best of luck, my friend.
Have a good day at the races tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.